It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Suicide Sucks. Now today in my camper van we've got our lovely cups of tea ready, and I've got Samii with me today, and Samii is going to tell us about the dark days that she had, because we always start straight in there with the dark days. Let's not, mess about with it. So could you start by telling us maybe your first memory of ever having dark days?
Yeah, I'd probably say it was back when I was 16. I had a lot of stuff going off with my parents, just kind of just some really tough stuff, and some of the stuff from them made me feel like I was not wanted and not loved. I never kind of felt that growing up. I had a lovely childhood and stuff, but there was just certain things that was happening at the particular time when I was 16 that just made me feel like I wasn't. And as a 16-year-old, it was just really hard to kind of know how to deal with those feelings of feeling unwanted and unloved by the family that you've grown up with, that you felt like you once was. It was really difficult, and just...
It's a difficult age, and that's when you need that unconditional love.
Yeah, and I feel like at that age, even though it can be considered that you're not so much as young, you are still young, and I definitely was very young for my age at 16, and I wasn't really aware of how to process stuff, how to process emotions, how to process difficult things that's going off, or even have the ability to know how to articulate it to people and talk about it. It was just really hard to have it in you but not be able to express it. So I found that was when I kind of first fell into a depression. But I don't think at the time I was aware that it was depression. It's only as I've got older and kind of my depression's developed that I really understood that that's exactly what it was. And it kind of spiraled, and I would then kind of not know how to deal with it, so that what I would end up doing is actually making it worse with my family by acting out. So I would have the attitude, I'd always been pretty good in school, pretty good at home, not really being a bother, and then suddenly I was full of attitude, and I would leave the home. I ended up having my key taken off of me because I would just leave without telling them and just sneak out the house and just leave because I didn't want to be there. They just couldn't quite understand, obviously, why I was all of a sudden acting out in this way, but it was actually to do with how I was feeling and couldn't speak about it. And then ultimately that affected how I was behaving in school. I still behaved quite good in classes and things, because I've always been one that's absolutely scared of teachers shouting at you. I don't like that feeling. It makes me feel horrible. So I would never be really one to act out. But just in friendships and stuff, there'd be a lot more falling outs and things. And then I fell into I don't even know how it started, but I remember developing bulimia, and that was how I could control the situation of what I was feeling, of that unwanted love. There was no way for me to know how to process it and deal with the emotions, but somehow being bulimic and making myself be sick after every meal or food that I had was my way of gaining that control, and that kind of felt like I was dealing with it, even though it's only creating more problems.
And were your parents aware at the time?
No, my
parents. This was going on?
My parents still don't know about it now. I hid it that well. My parents have no idea that I was bulimic, even to this day now.
will they listen to this and they may now know?
They might do, and then they'll find out. But you know, we're
Yeah.
adults now, and we can I can communicate about it and we can discuss it. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just not been something that you can kind of just bring up out of the blue. Like it obviously this is something important. So like, you know, if they do listen to it and stuff, we can speak about it from that. But it's not something you just go up to someone and go, "Hi, I was bulimic." Like it kind of comes out in the conversations you have around it. But
there's also, just to say on that bit about you know, you don't know how to express yourself when you're 16 and it comes out as like acting out and all the rest of it. I think that not only do kids growing up need help with that, I think parents also need help, because it's hard to understand. There's no guidebook, you know, of what to do when your kids are displaying those behaviours that really are asking for some help and attention. So there's so much that still needs, and that's why it's so important to talk about these things. So thank you, Samii. Sorry, carry on.
no, that's fine. Exactly that. And like, you know, parents have a lot to obviously deal with in terms of having children and stuff. Like, there's no rule book. Like, how do you go from dealing with them from a baby all the way till, you know, the end of life? Like, it's constant like battle and stuff. So, and how do you know if it's not just them just misbehaving, or if there is actually an underlying issue? Like, it is very difficult. But fortunately, like with that, I didn't do it for very long. So you know, it never got obviously to the point of being hospitalised or anything like that. One of my friends did notice, because like one of my telltale signs was that I had a water bottle and I was always drinking water, and it was my excuse to go to the toilet and fill the water bottle up for what I was doing.
Right.
So my friend obviously followed me one day after. I didn't know. She spoke to me about it after, but she'd followed me when I'd gone to fill up my water bottle and heard me being sick, and that's how she kind of knew about it.
And did she talk to you about it?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she asked me about it, and I told her, like, you know, what's been going off at home and stuff, and what's kind of caused it. We did end up speaking about it, and I spoke about it with one of my other friends. So like, the two close friends that I had at the time at school, like, knew about it, and then it was kind of like us three together trying to figure out how to stop it and like, yeah, stop it, and obviously make me feel better, because obviously ultimately that's not. And I just remember one of my friends had been on the Beat website, which is like a charity that sort of like helps people with like the eating disorders. It helps you understand more about the eating disorders, and like has loads of guides and things online for like not just the people who are going through it, but like the families and the friends, and like how to talk to people, like when just very like informative.
What's that called? Sorry.
Beat.
Is it BEAT?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the full
Yeah. We'll look up.
thing for it. But yeah, they printed off some of the stuff on there for me, which was really obviously really lovely. And then I went on the website myself to kind of try and get more help that way. But I also at the time remember, I've always been a massive fan of Hollyoaks. Absolutely love it. Like, and that is my goal of where I want to be in life. I want to be on Hollyoaks, and it stems from this. So while I was going through bulimia, there was also an actress, Emma Rigby, who was playing the character Hannah, and she was bulimic on the programme. Right. So I had that connection of watching every night this other character that's living, like, not the same life as me, because obviously they've got their own reasons as what's caused them to do that, but we both was doing it, and I could see how it was affecting her and all of her family, and just having that understanding of being able to visually see it.
God, that highlights how important it is for these dramas, isn't it? To reflect difficulties in life.
Exactly, and so I could see it being played out through somebody else, and actually hers was very bad. Like, one of her friends was doing it with her and kind of encouraging her to do it more, and she ended up dying, but her friend ended up being in hospital and being tube-fed, and obviously a lot further along than what I was. And just being able to see that, I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to get to that stage. I don't want to be that far gone in it that I can't see a way out of it. So it was very, very important seeing that, having that displayed, and just kind of then being able to internalise it to myself and realise what I'm doing to myself. Because I saw in PE, we had these posters. They'd been there for years, never noticed them before. But until this was happening, it was specifically about the body, and it was showing you all the different organs and different parts of the body, and how like bulimia affects each one, and how it can go into like failure, and then ultimately the end goal of doing it is death. And it was just that realisation of all these different parts of my body are going to be affected by what I'm doing now, that I think is actually helping the situation, and it's not. It's actually causing all these different problems, and ultimately I'm going to die from it. I don't want to die. I really don't want that. I don't want all these other problems. I have a massive phobia of being in physical pain, and I knew that all of them were going to cause me more physical pain, and again, that's not what I wanted. So
was this all when you were 16? Or
Yeah.
Was this, yeah. Okay. And just to go on back to the whole parent thing, because, you know, parents could be listening to this and thinking, I've got a sneaky feeling or inkling that this could be happening to my daughter. What would have helped from your parents back then? Is there anything that they could have done?
I guess probably just having that, rather than, because obviously I was acting out and being like attitude, like even when they got to the point, like for an example, like when they took my key away from me, they were shouting at me and asked me to give, and told me I had to give them the key back. I stood there with the key, dropped it on the floor, and looked at them as if like, you're going to pick that up, you want it, you pick it up. Like, that's how it was, like that's how awful I was, like that's so disrespectful to like my parents, like, and they was absolutely shocked at that, because I'd never done anything like that. Like, that was so out of character for me. But I think just with all of those kind of things that weren't normal to my kind of behaviour, obviously, yes, there is a, you know, a point of, you know, discipline and, you know, shout, maybe not so much shouting, but at least some form of discipline for acting that way. But I think for me it would have been having them sit down and have a conversation and just ask me, why are you acting? Just actually questioning why I'm actually acting this way. Like, it's not normally how you act. Like, you're normally like this. Like, is there something going on that's causing you to act in this way? Because all I kind of got was shouted at for how I was behaving, and like punished for it. And then it would be thrown back of like, why can't you be more like your brother and sister? It was all like and I feel like that all just made that situation of how I was feeling worse, because then it was like, I already feel a bit unwanted and loved, and then you're trying to tell me to be like my brother and sister. That to me was like a confirming that how I feel is correct, that I'm not. And it's not the case at all. Like, my parents like have throughout my life supported me. They still support me now, like so much. I rely on them so much. They are great parents, but I would just say it's just kind of questioning the actual behaviour.
At that time, if one of them had said, you know, I can see that you're really angry and upset, you know, why? You know, is there something going on? Do you think you would have told them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been quite an honest and open person, like, and I do, or have always struggled to, if I'm feeling any kind of emotion, like, I can't leave it. I've got to get it out in some way. So, you know, usually it's with crying or like journaling or writing poems, just some kind of expression of getting it out, or even talking about it. Like, I need to process it. I need to talk about it or put it somewhere. Because if I try and leave it in, like, I know that it only makes me feel worse, and I can't sit with that feeling. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. And actually, it then leads to acting out in like anger and stuff, and I'd rather try and get it out in a more healthy way. But yeah.
So how did you get out of the bulimia then?
It was literally, obviously the pinpoint was the character on Hollyoaks and the poster in PE. They were like the pinpoints of like, I don't want
to end up like that.
I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to do this anymore. I need to find a way to not. So that website was really helpful, and my friends were like, they would literally spend the dinners and stuff with me and just keeping me engaged in like conversations and stuff, so that my mind wasn't focused on it, because obviously it's the meal times that are when obviously your mind's focused on it, because the food's right there in front of you, and it's like, so having something to do directly after you've just eaten was a way to stop that, because it was, if you just sat doing nothing after that, you've got all those thoughts and
yeah, so it's a bit like distraction, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you got through that?
Yes, like I can honestly say, like I've had the odd time where I've kind of relapsed from it, but it's not something that I kind of really deal with anymore. I don't feel like I even have like the voices in the head of like telling me to do it. Like I still have like some kind of issues like that I need to deal with around food, just in terms of like, I'm not very comfortable like eating in front of new people, like, and I do kind of like eat food in categories and like cut them really small and stuff, and it's kind of those things that I was doing around that I still have, but they don't affect me in terms of making me want to do it or have those thoughts, but they're just the kind of behaviours that I've still kind of got from it, that I do obviously need to work on.
So fast forward to, you know, was life all dandy and all the rest of it? When did you, because you did mention when we originally got in touch about suicidal thoughts, and potentially further than that, how did that come about?
So as I say, like obviously it was started with the depression when I was 16, and obviously at the time I didn't know that was what it was. I'd say like the kind of next time I really felt the depression is when I was working in a bank. It just always get to like the winter months, and obviously generally people do feel a bit more, you know, glum, like, you know, there's not the daylight, you go into work in the dark, you come home in the dark. It's kind of, you know, a bit more rubbish, like you don't go out as much because it's too cold, and all of those kind of things is quite normal. But I felt a lot lower than that. Like I'd end up for a good few years, like around the winter months, have like 3 months off work sick because I was struggling that much. It gets to the point where on the worst days, like I just had no care for nobody, no care for myself, no care for anything around me. Like I couldn't even care less about showering and cleaning myself. Like I could go a week without washing and knowing that I stink, but I really don't care. I don't have the energy. It feels like the most simplest of tasks are actually really overwhelming and really hard. And it's just like, and then because you're not really, like for me, when I'm in my worst depression states, like I don't want to eat. I just don't have no desire to eat. So I kind of like avoid eating. And then obviously that only then plays into the not having energy. And then it's like, so it's like a vicious cycle of keeping you in it. And it's hard to kind of see past that. But yeah, when I was struggling with it when I was in the bank, like it felt like a lot of it was to do with the job. Like that's what was causing it. Because it is a very stressful job in the bank. Like you constantly got the managers on you being like, why haven't you done this? Why have you not done that? And even when you've done stuff, they wouldn't be like, oh, you've done great or well done. It was like, what more can you do? You know, what more can we ask of you? And just that pressure I didn't like and I couldn't deal with. I felt like it was too much. So I did kind of think at the time that it was just solely the job. And the doctors did end up diagnosing me with sad depression, which was obviously the seasonal affective disorder, which made sense because those were the months when I would struggle the most. And so, like, I've been on and off medication for that because I try not to, if I can help it, not be on antidepressants because I don't like how they feel. I feel like they make me feel numb, and it feels like I'm just there, but I'm not there. Like, I could watch something that would normally, like, I would have some kind of emotion to, and I'm emotionless, just nothing. So I don't kind of like the feeling of them, but I know that if I'm really in a dark day and, really struggling, then I will use them because they do help a little bit. It's just that feeling of the numbness that I don't like, and I feel like for me, I'm more of a therapy person. I love therapy, and I think that that's ultimately like what helps you with your problems. Like, you get to the root of the problem, whereas I feel like the tablets just mask it and just kind of like help you go day to day, but they're not actually solving the problem of what's caused you to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having these chats with people, that seems to be the key to most of it, is that once you actually delve deep and work out what's causing it, everything gets better.
Yeah, definitely. And like, when I kind of had that diagnosis and of the depression, I then sought out a group on Facebook that's specifically for people with that disorder, and there's loads of people like in Canada, like all over, like that are in there, and they have a lot of like I don't really kind of use it in terms of like speaking in there. I just kind of am present in the group. I can see what people post and stuff, and I don't kind of partake in actually messaging or anything like that.
It's just that seeing that there are other people that are experiencing the same as you, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many people in that group, and I assume there's so many more that aren't in there that have that.
And what group's this?
It's just sad depression group on Facebook. It's literally just the name of the condition, and there's a lot of actually like information in there, and there's some links like I didn't know existed, that there's sad lamps.
Yes.
I never knew anything about them till I was in that group.
Right.
And they actually have a list of like ones that they have found to be really good, like with all the good reviews. So I was like, I ended up investing in one for myself, and I was like, this is a great thing that I can do, like in the morning, like that's just going to help. And then because obviously it just mimics the sunlight, and you just sat in front of it for like 20 minutes in the morning, like you can do it when you're having breakfast or when you're putting makeup on or whatever. Like, it's not like you're going out of your way to add these 20 minutes in your day.
Yeah,
you're using it. Yeah, and
brilliant.
It does really help on the really dark days. And I also find taking vitamin D tablets constantly throughout the year is a big help. I mean, in the UK, it's not really, they don't really say any, there's not any kind of studies or anything that say that kind of helps. But in the group, there's obviously a lot of people from America and other places in the world, and it's been approved in their countries that vitamin D helps if you take it throughout the year. And I just thought, it's not actually going to harm me taking it throughout the year. It's really, the way I see it is, it's in the months where we do get a lot of sunlight, and we get, when we do get nice weather in England.
Yeah, rarely, but yeah.
Typically we're meant to. So like when it is, at least when you're getting more daylight, typically your vitamin D levels are a bit higher because you're getting that source. So I thought that all it's going to do is just keep that at a high level, so that by the time it gets to the winter months and the daylight's non-existent, my level should at least be, even though they'll be lower, they're not going to be as low as what I normally find that they are. And just taking them then would only kind of be like a constant little battle of trying to keep them at the level they need to be.
Yeah,
whereas
it's like charging a battery.
Yeah, just keeping it at a constant good level, so at least it's quite stable. So even if I do tip, I'm not going to be at definitely the lowest.
Excellent. So that's lots of good advice for anybody who's suffering from SAD out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But
And then, so
that,
did you stay at the bank, or?
I did for a while, and then I did end up leaving. I ended up being a post lady.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, which was great because it meant you're outdoors all the day, and you're getting that exercise. You're walking a lot. Like I would do on average 25,000 steps a day. That was average.
Wow.
Obviously you're out in, snow, rain, like some of the rubbish weather, but generally it was good, even if it's just a bit windy, it's still nice because you're walking so much that cool air is nice.
And so out of the bank environment, did your mental health improve as well?
I did notice a massive improvement with that, and I was obviously exercising more, because in a bank I was just sat at a desk 9 to 5, and then when you come home, the last thing you want to do is go to a gym or do any kind of exercise. So that wasn't really present.
Yeah.
So this job was actually helping me be physical while at work, like getting that exercise in. And then I kind of also changed my diet of eating better. I used to eat so much chocolate. Like, I love chocolate, but I could have 8 bars of chocolate before dinner time.
Really?
Like, as amazing as chocolate is, that's not any good. Like, there's such a high rush from that, and then absolute mad crash. Like, it's not sustainable doing that and eating all the kind of just not having enough veg. I know, that's what you taught at school, and I used to be like, do daily exercise, drink your water, eat 5 fruit and veg a day, and I'd be like, no. You're not telling me what I'm doing. No.
Yeah.
I kind of rebelled from that and just did whatever I wanted and ate what I wanted. And I've always been fortunate that I don't put on weight. I really struggle to actually put on weight, so I could eat whatever I wanted. And I was doing that, but it wasn't helping. So once I changed all of that and was actually starting to eat more veg, and just making my diet more healthier and kind of not having any chocolate or treats, but just restricting it to a lot lower than what I was doing, just kind of reducing it. So I still would have a bit of chocolate on an evening because I need that sugar, because I'm addicted to that and that's what I'm used to and I love. And I think having a little bit's nothing wrong with that. So I would incorporate that. But by doing all of that, I was like, yeah, this actually is helping my mental health, and helping with my depression. I was like, I had no idea that really to the full extent of how much physical exercise and eating a healthy, balanced diet actually does play into your mental well-being. I didn't kind of have that connection. I think in schools you kind of just taught it, you just hold it, and that information doesn't sit in. It doesn't sit because you don't really see it. You're just like, okay. But actually experiencing the lows that I've had and then doing those changes and noticing the difference and how so much more energy I've got, how I actually want to go to work. I've got that get up and go, and it's like I wouldn't normally have that. So it was a massive difference, and I did see a huge improvement. But the other issue I had at the time was an unhealthy relationship that I was in, and that was actually probably the biggest part of my mental health. I thought all the rest were the problems. I thought they were what causing it. I never for 1 second doubted the relationship and thought that was causing anything to do with my mental health. But it was a massive thing. And once I got out of that relationship, I did feel a lot better because I felt a lot better because I got out of that relationship. That actually, when I look back on it, for so many years I wasn't happy in that relationship, but I didn't know. I didn't notice until I left.
It came out in all these other things like work and... Yeah,
and once I'd actually left and you can kind of reflect on where you've been and what's been happening, but that's when I really realised I've been in a relationship that I'm not happy in for years, and I've just stuck at it. What? Because I love that person, but actually it's not healthy for them and not healthy for me. So that was a big thing. But on the flip side of that, I'd been with the person for 11 years, was engaged, like had a dog, you know, and I'd been with them from being 17. So like all of like life experiences, like going around town, going to university, going on tour with the dance team at uni, like girls' holidays and all of things like that. I was always in a relationship. I'd never been and done things on my own, never lived on my own, so I was very much aware of how comfortable and how uncomfortable I then was not in a relationship, not having that person. Like I'd go around and I'd kind of like put my hand out to like hold their hand and they're not there, and it's like, oh yeah. And then the realization when you're cooking, oh, I'm only cooking for one person, I'm not cooking for two people anymore. It's such a huge shift.
And emotionally, that's like, I mean, it's like losing someone, you know, it's grief, isn't it? It's powerful.
Definitely. And it was really hard to, because of how long you've been with them, to then just not. And then because of it being around the time when COVID was first happening, it was like everything was being stripped away from you, like being able to go out and see people and a lot of that. And so that also kind of played into that around that time, dealing with that, because I was only obviously able to like do like Zoom calls with my friends, and it was that time when people were doing the quizzes and things like that. Like that was how it was. So it was hard to kind of process and deal with that while then dealing with this COVID thing that we're all dealing with and struggling with. Fortunately, I was lucky in that obviously I was still working, because as a post lady, like it was required. So at least I had that to get me out of the house, to be walking and doing that. So it did help, but it wasn't enough help at that time for what I was dealing with. And I just felt very like lost, and I just felt like I just felt like I've been doing so many different things and trying to help me mentally and trying to pick my life up and feel and be better, to then have it knocked back down. And it just felt like, when does it end? Like, why do I have to keep fighting to feel, you know, normal? Like, why is it such a hard thing for me to feel happy and enjoy life? Like, why is that hard? Like, and obviously you only see it from the outside of other people, but you just think, God, everyone else is happy and enjoying life, why can't I be like that? And you just have that internal thought going around, and I just felt like I didn't want to be here anymore. I was like, it just kind of felt like the depression of how I was feeling with dealing with it all. The way I kind of like try to explain it, of getting to that point of not wanting to be here and end my life, is it feels like the depression is a person, but they're in your mind, so nobody else can see them. So obviously if you broke your leg, obviously it's visible to everyone to see that that's caused you pain and the recovery that's needed. But when it's to do with your mind, no one can see that, it's all in your head. So I sort of explain it in that it's like a person constantly feeding you negative things into you, and it's like, do you know, like when horses have like those blinkers on so that they can just concentrate on where they're going to and they can't see anything external around them? That's how the depression makes you feel. Like you can't see your family and friends around you, you can't see anything else but the depression and the thoughts, and that is your focus, and that is all that you can think and have on your mind.
That's a great analogy, that, the horse and the blinkers. Wow.
And then, so because you can't see any of those things, like, because a lot of people do kind of question, like, well, like, why do people in their lives, when they've got family and they've got kids, like, that's because they obviously don't have that understanding that that's what, you know, rightly so they have those questions. But it's because you've got those blinkers and you can't see them. And you actually think, because of the person that's telling you, you know, they tell you that you're worthless, that your life will be so much better if you're not here, like you don't add value to this world, you don't have any worth, value or purpose. everybody that's in your life will be better off without you. You will be better off not here because you won't be feeling this pain. Your pain will end. And ultimately, that's how you see it. That is the only way to stop the thoughts, to stop the pain, to stop feeling so crap. And so that's, for me, that's how it was. And I remember, like, really well, like, I'd had a Zoom call with my friends, and we was doing some fun quizzes, like games and things. And they were there with their partners, and then there was just me. And then, like, just as normal at the end, saying goodbye and, like, love you and stuff like that. And I knew that for me, that was the last time I'm going to tell them that. They had obviously no idea. They thought I was all fine, like, because I was on this call having fun with them playing games. But for me, it was like, this is my last moments with them. So I was very aware of, like, telling them that I loved them, because that was the last time that they're going to hear it. And I left a note on my bed from my parents. We'll go to sleep. This'll be it. I will feel better. I will be happy. Like, I'm not going to be here. Obviously, that didn't happen. I am here.
Yes, thank goodness.
I know that I did it, but I don't have that memory. I have the memory of the bit before, the build-up, but I don't have that memory. And then I have the memory of when I woke up. And I felt the sickest I'd ever felt in my entire life. Like, and I couldn't see a thing. I'd lost my sight. I actually felt like I didn't know if I'd ever get it back. I just thought in that moment, oh my God, I can't see. What have I done to myself? I can't see. And I just felt really, like, drained. And do you know when you feel your body feels really heavy and achy and drained? I felt like that, and sick. And I tried to get myself to the toilet, and I was just constantly, like, holding on to the walls, like, just as if, like, you've got a blindfold on and you're trying to feel your way around to get to the bathroom. And I was throwing up, but before I got to being sick, I ended up falling. I fell, and then I crawled my way to the toilet to be sick in it, like, because I couldn't see anything. And at the time I was living with my parents, and my mum had heard the commotion of me falling. I was like, Sam, are you all right? And obviously then she was there when I was being sick, like, doing the mum thing, like, holding your hair back and getting you some water, like, you know, the normal thing mums do. And she had obviously no clue of what I'd just done. And I just, for a few days, I just felt so drained and just so emotional about it. But I did gain my sight back. It was just obviously, you know, a temporary thing from what I'd done, but I was so scared.
And at that point, when your mum was helping you with your hair and stuff, did you not go to the doctors or anything?
No.
And did she not question what had happened, or why you were throwing up?
Just obviously in the moment of being sick, obviously she was just there supporting me, and then obviously after that, like, she then did the mum thing, make me a cup of tea, and we sat and we watched some TV together. Like, she stayed up with me, because this must have been like early hours of the morning kind of time. And she did say, oh, what's wrong, like, you're not feeling well? And I said, oh, I just feel really sick. And I didn't tell her. I couldn't bring myself to tell her. And I just felt so rough that I just wanted to just feel better. That was my focus in that moment. I didn't really want to talk about it. I just wanted to just feel better. And also with that, I then obviously was feeling, after a while, I felt tired and wanted to go back to sleep, but I was scared. I didn't want to go back to sleep, because I was like, what if I go back to sleep and I don't wake up? Because that had actually scared me so much that I didn't actually not want to be here. It made me realise I don't want to in my life. I don't want to be dead. And I certainly don't want to be how I'm feeling right now in all this pain. It was a big eye-opener of it. And as I say, I was scared to go back to sleep, because I didn't want to not wake up. So I kind of forced myself to stay up. And I just kind of looked I didn't really talk to anyone about it. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept it to myself, and just looking back on it now is just like, I should have spoke about it to people, because, you know, even to this day, there's a lot of people in my life that don't know about it.
And why? So again, if somebody's listening, you know, why didn't you talk to somebody then?
In the initial moment of it, obviously, just because of how rough I was feeling from it, that I just wanted to feel better. And then I think because I didn't, it then made it harder, because as time goes on, it makes it harder to speak about it.
Yeah.
And it would have actually been better when my mum asked me that question about how I am, like what's caused me to be sick. That's when I should have said. Because ultimately, the more time goes on, it feels harder to speak about it, and because then it's like, how do I approach this conversation? Because that was the key time. My mum had already approached how I was feeling and that I'd been sick. So it was perfect time for me to just respond with what's happened. Whereas any other time after that, I've got to approach the situation. I've got to open up the conversation. And that's the hard part, opening it up. If somebody already kind of asks you the question, it's easier to just respond.
And I think that's why a lot of the guidance, for if you've got concerns about people having suicidal thoughts, is that there's nothing wrong with saying and asking, are you feeling suicidal?
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid, you know, it's either a yes or no. And also it's allowing the person who's struggling to realise that, oh, this person who's asking me the question is prepared to talk about suicide, you know. And that's why the talking about it is so crucial.
It is, and I can understand why it's so hard for the person going through it to open up about it, but also people to ask those questions, because sometimes you just feel uncomfortable asking those, but actually
it's just a question.
Yeah, it's a simple question that actually will actually most likely prompt the response.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how did you get through that? I mean, obviously, luckily for you, it didn't work, so you now knew, oh, that option I thought about, I don't want.
Yeah, look, like, it, for me, like, as much as I'm like, I don't regret doing it, because actually by doing it, it's actually gave me the realisation that I don't want to do that. Because of how horrible it was when I first woke up and losing my sight, that was a huge thing. And it really affected me and scared the life out of me, and made me like, no, this kind of, it was like a snap thing in my mind, just going from don't want to be here to now like, oh, no, I really don't want to do what my mind keeps telling me to do. Like, I don't want to.
And sorry, when was this?
This was during the beginning of COVID.
Right, okay, yeah.
So it was a couple of years ago now,
Yeah.
but yeah, and even then, like, I still have, even from that time, I still get the suicidal thoughts. Like, if I am at my lowest, I do still get them, I still hear them. There's just not the desire, it's just not that desire to take my life again. I think that experience has stayed with me.
So what do you do if you get those thoughts? How do you get help? Where do you turn to help you through that?
For me, it is making sure that just the daily routine of making sure there's exercise and eating healthy, just to try and keep me stable each day, because when I am doing those things, it actually prevents me to get to the darkest, lower days. I might drop in mood, but I won't drop that low. So by making sure I keep doing them every day, that keeps me a bit more stable. That's like a key thing. But when I am actually at the low point and feeling them thoughts, I have to just kind of take myself back to what I did and how I felt in that moment, to just kind of snap out of those thoughts, because you need something instantly. When you've got those thoughts, you need something there and then, like instant. stop the thoughts. What you can do is stop how you react and how you feel to them, because I don't feel like there's a way to stop the thoughts completely. I feel like for me, they feel like they're just going to be there and be present.
There's something interesting about that as well, actually. The next person I'm going to interview, they've spoken to me via messaging about passive suicide, and it's all about having suicidal thoughts and even thinking about how you do it, but you wouldn't do it. That's why it's passive suicide. And this was a new thing to me, because I think a lot of people out there probably have that, where they envisage scenarios where that happens, and they probably think that there's something really wrong with them because you're having these really weird, morbid thoughts. But again, it's one of those situations where you're not alone. There's, it's an actual thing. Passive suicide from like, I've forgotten what it is now, but it's CPTSD. It's something PTSD. So that'll be interesting next time as well. But are there any other things? Are there any groups, anywhere else that you turn to when you're feeling or having those thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, I'm now a member of Holly Matthews' self-development membership group called the Happy Me Project. I kind of found her in one of like the lockdowns in COVID. Initially just her talking about anxiety, which is something that I do struggle with, and I have when I'm in kind of like the low stages and stuff, like my anxiety gets heightened and I have had panic attacks. So that kind of drew me into hearing more about her, and just with her like live sessions and stuff, she's just very, very human. Like not typically how I would, like if you had to like think of a life coach and how they are perceived, like just very professional. Not that she's not professional, because she is, but she's just more human, and like she loves a swear word, like she's just human. Like adds a little swear word here or there in it, just as like a little motivation thing. Like obviously not, any kind of disrespect. It's in a nice, friendly way, and
she's obviously been through similar stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she was she's been an actress on telly, so she might be known to people. She was in Biker Grove when she was young with Anthony Deck, and it's been documented and stuff about how she lost her husband to brain cancer, and so she's been through really tough times herself, and so there's so when she is helping you with stuff, that she even openly will tell us, if she's feeling a bit anxious today, and actually I need to do this for me because actually I'm a bit anxious today and stuff, and it's you not only know that each of you in the membership's feeling like that, but she also feels like that, and she also has to work at it. It's not that she's just all of a sudden cured and she's all, never has a down day or has to do any of the work. She still has to do the work. Working on yourself is such an investment. And I've never kind of really thought too much about it until this membership. And she does live sessions 6 times a week.
Wow.
That's how much content is in there. And they're all on different things. We have monthly topics that we talk about, and we can suggest, if there's something we really want to help with, she'll put that in. She'll incorporate it into her schedule of when she can fit it in. And we do story time, so she'll read through chapters or a chapter of a certain book that's quite helpful. We do tapping exercises, breath work, meditations. There's so many things, and sometimes we just sat there. It's just a cup of tea and a chat.
Wow.
And you're just there, and you can watch them on the replay. She also gets guest speakers in, so we've had people in to do yoga, just talk about their own personal struggles and experiences. We've had singers, actresses, we've had people talking about food and diet, loads of stuff.
Fantastic. I'd never heard of that before. So it's the Holly Matthews.
So it's the So it's Holly Matthews' self-development group, but it's called the Happy Me Project membership.
Happy Me Project membership, right.
And which is on Facebook. That's where it's at. Obviously you can find her on Instagram and stuff, and then all of her links to stuff are on there, because obviously you can obviously work with her on a one-to-one. Obviously that is obviously more expensive to do that. One thing she has done is with the membership is try to make the price obviously reasonable for what she's offering, but actually it's really cheap for everything that's in there. Like, you have access to some of her old courses that she's done that were like hundreds of pounds, and they're in there that you can access and do. And it's £20 a month, and for me that's cheap. You can't get that anywhere else.
And there's so many different things. There is so much now out there to help people, but not everything is going to suit everybody. So it's all about finding the one that works for you, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, for me, the fact that it's 6 days a week that she's there, like, that's a lot of time that I, like, invest in myself, like, I'm working on me, and I do feel like I am in a much better place now. Like, I don't really have as many of the suicidal thoughts that I have previously had. I haven't really been at my lowest, like the really dark days that much. I've been there once recently, but that was, I say recently, it was more sort of 2 years ago now, when I had been raped and sexually assaulted. Like, just the very beginning of that and going through the investigation with that, like, obviously it was really tough. But I'm actually surprised at myself that I am still here from it.
And that might be because you've done so much work on yourself.
Yeah, it literally has got to be that, because I look back and I think, how am I even here? Like, how have I even got here? Like, and why, although it was really tough in the beginning, like, there's so much to process and deal with in those kind of like early days, like the toughest days I've ever had in my life. But I never during them did I once want to take my own life. I felt like I didn't want to be here. I had those thoughts because of how tough it was. And I didn't want to face it and deal with it all. But I didn't want to take my own life at that point. And surprisingly, I feel really proud of myself from getting from that to here. And obviously I'm still got the investigation still ongoing. Like, it's not going away, it's still there, it's still healing from it. But in those early days I wasn't working. I was doing a course to start a job when it all kind of happened. And you had to pass the course in order to do the job at the end of it. And obviously you get a qualification as well, so it was great. Great experience. And actually it was great for me not being in work, because I didn't have to then like be off sick from work, because I couldn't be in work, I couldn't function at that time. And I did take a couple of days off from being live on the sessions, and I just told them that I wasn't well because I didn't really want to go into it all. And so I was behind a little bit on the work, because every day you had a workbook to do and you had to complete it. And you was assessed on every workbook, and by the end of it you had to have completed and passed all of the workbooks to pass the course to get the job. But when you first started, like, they could give you feedback on the workbook you've done, and you could make amendments right up until the very end of the week of the course, so you had time to kind of get yourself to a level where you can pass it. And in that moment of just obviously trying to deal with and process that, I was somehow very much focused on the workbooks and doing that and finishing the course. I didn't want to just not do it anymore because of what I was going through. I didn't want to just stop it. And I probably could have told them what I'd gone off, probably had an extension on it all, maybe prolonged the course out for me or any of that, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't really want to speak about it to people, to be honest.
And having that other thing to focus on, it's almost like the blinkers again, isn't it? If you can set the blinkers onto something positive, then you can get through it.
Yeah, because I mean, they were really tough days, like long days of being in the police station and things like that. Like, it was just, yeah, just hard to even think about.
I can't imagine. I just want to go back to about your family and stuff. Obviously, I'm assuming because there's a police investigation, your family know about the rape.
Yeah.
Do they now? You said that they didn't know about the bulimia. Do they now know that you tried to take your own life?
No.
Or is that going to be a surprise as
No,
well?
yeah, they still don't know about that.
Right.
They know I've been. My mum, obviously, it was a very tough thing to tell my mum about what had happened to me with, in terms of the rape. I did sit down and have that conversation because I knew I had to, because I was, at that point, I was living at home with them and they're going to see how I'm behaving, and there was no way I could hide that at all. So, and then obviously with the investigation stuff, don't know if police are going to need me and all of that and how I'm going to deal with that, and I knew that I would need as much support as possible to get through this. So I did sit down and have a conversation with my mum. Asked my mum if she could tell my dad, because I really didn't want to sit down and tell my dad that. Like, I didn't want to, thought that, no, I can't do that conversation, leave that for my mum to kind of find a way to try and do that. So they were aware of that, and my mum was very much, and still is, aware of like when it gets too much for me. She knows my telltale signs now of like that I withdraw, I'll not speak very much, I'll probably give like one word answers, or I'll avoid answering her calls, and she knows when I'm feeling low. So and I speak to her like every week and see each other. Like, my mum makes an effort to see and speak to me, to keep that contact and make sure I'm all right and check in on me. But she knows like of how I've felt suicidal and stuff, but she just doesn't know that I've tried to before.
Okay. So tell me a bit now about what the future holds. Have you got any hobbies or things that you'd like to, work-wise, that you'd like to do?
There's a lot of my hobbies are actually the stuff that I do and want to do work-wise. Like, obviously I mentioned that I'm working with the Princess's Trust for my craft business. So making cards and doing oil paintings is something I love. It relaxes me. They're what really help me when my mind's going off and got the thoughts going around. They stop the thoughts. They help me relax and keep calm.
How's that involved with the Princess Trust?
So because I was just doing it for friends and family, I wanted to kind of obviously step it up as an actual business and be able to, to earn from it, as well as, just doing it for friends and family. So through the job centre, they mentioned the Princess Trust, because I obviously knew that they exist, but I didn't kind of really understand what it is that they do. And they told me to contact them because they help up to the age of 30. If you want to start your own business, they help up to that age. So at the time I must have been 29, and it was like a month before I turned 30, and I was like, oh my God, I have got to message them and get in touch like now.
Absolutely.
And
so what kind of help what help do you get from them?
So initially when you make the contact with them, they put you onto like a week course. It's all done online, like on Teams, so you don't have to like leave the house. You can do one in person, but it's a lot easier to do online, I think. You just because some of them are like full days and some of like half days, so you obviously also have to have that availability to commit to that, to be able to do that. And just for the week, you have obviously other people that are in the same boat, like wanting to create their own business. You have people in different stages, so you'll have people that have just got an idea but don't really know how to go about doing any more than have the idea, or you'll have people that have got things set in place but just need help with the funding to set the business up, or you'll have people who are actually already actively doing the business but just actually need help in terms of how to grow it and how better they can work with the business. So it's really good at connecting you with different people, and you obviously get to hear about their business and where they're at with it, and each kind of day you have a different topic to work on that they go through, and they go through like working out your finances, bookkeeping, like all the
Brilliant.
all the kind of things that like, and you just start to think, God, yeah, there's so much to having your own business, all these
Yeah.
different things you've got to do, and you're like, gosh,
And was that free?
free, completely free.
And anybody can do it as long as they're under 30.
Yeah,
What a positive way to end the interview, really. I mean, you've experienced doom and gloom, shall we say, and luckily at your lowest point you're still here,
yes,
and now you've got the potential for a business to grow, and I mean, that's just absolutely so positive. And the things that you've done, you're still, I assume, working on yourself. I mean, it's never ending, is it? We need to...
I'm still very much in the membership and working on that, and I'm just trying to focus on the good things and enjoy life, like not obviously have like things planned like with the business and where I want to be. Like I obviously want to be on a Hollyoaks doing my acting and be somewhere with my modelling, and there's things to see in the future, but I don't want to focus too much on the future, that is my only focus, or dwell too much on the past. I kind of want to be more present and enjoy the here and now, and I feel like that is where you need to be, and that's what you need to focus on, and that is what's going to help you grow and get to where you want to be.
Absolutely, and I think that's a brilliant place to stop. We can't do anything about the past. The future is too far away. Let's just focus on the here and now. Samii, thank you so much for joining me in my camper van. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.